What's up, guys? Matt Brown here for TheLines.com. Let's talk a little Monday Night Football between the Chargers and the Colts. Important game for the Chargers for sure as they look to solidify their playoff berth, which they can get with a win tonight against the Colts. As usual, everything we do absolutely free here, so please go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. Hope you guys had a happy holiday season. Hope your New Year's plans are going well, and hopefully we make some money here tonight on Monday Night Football. Sitting here across the board as we're recording this on Monday morning. So again, by the time you see this, maybe this line has changed, some different positions here, but you can find a Chargers 3.5 if you want that. You can find a 4 on the Colts if you want to go there. 45 to 45.5 is your total. Scroll down here a little bit more. Obviously, no weather to worry with is going to be in a dome. If we do want to talk about some of the injury situation stuff, reminder that Jonathan Taylor lost for the season for the Colts in this game. They're also going to be without the services of cornerback Kenny Moore, one of their starting corners in this game. On the Charger side of things, actually really good news for them. Defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day and safety Derwin James, both going to be good to go this game for the Chargers, which is huge, obviously, to get Sebastian Joseph Day back on that defensive line to help kind of plug some of the run deficiencies that they have. And then, of course, Derwin James, one of the best safeties in the game. We can see how the Chargers offense matches up against this Colt defense as you take a look right here. I mean, of course, the big news here, and look, guys, I don't like to talk narratives. If you guys have been watching these videos and you've been watching this channel for the last few years, you understand. I mean, I'm spitting all these numbers and stats and rankings and things and all the different stuff like that, but man, I do have to at least pose the question, how do you come back from giving up the biggest lead in NFL history? I do wonder this. I mean, I host a show over on VSiN as well, and I have had Mike Pritchard, former first-round pick, on the show. I asked him, I was like, Pritch, how does this, you've been in the locker rooms, you've been in these locker rooms, like, how does a team come back for this? And he goes, I just can't even imagine it. He's like, you don't. And he's like, especially a team like this in which it's already dead, like your season's already dead. And then you go off and do something like that in the middle of a season, of a dead season as it is anyway. He's like, man, it would not surprise me if this team was a complete no-show. And look, I'm kind of along that line of thought as well. They've lost their last 4 games as it is anyway. And so what does Jeff Saturday do? He is going to do the Hail Mary, and he's going to start Nick Foles in this game. And I'll come, show you kind of this Colts offense here. If you want to, call it an offense or whatever, you can see they are 29th in the NFL in scoring. They're 24th in yards per game. You can see how terrible they are in just all these other statistical categories as well when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. So they're going to throw Nick Foles in. Last time we saw Nick Foles, it was in 2021. He did come in and started versus the Bears and had a good game. That being said, he has come out and admitted that he's been running with the scout team all year long. He hasn't played with the starters at all. He's just been the scout team quarterback all year. This is Jeff Saturday throwing a Hail Mary, thinking there's actually a chance that he's going to retain his job. And that's not the case. They're going to completely redo everything there. But it makes no sense whatsoever to start Foles, a guy hasn't played all year long, and again, hasn't run with the starters at all in practice. So he's been playing the role of the other team. He hadn't even been running the plays for his own team. So it's I think this is a pretty brutal situation here for this Colts team all around. Again, I don't like to play the narrative stuff too often here, but I do wonder how you come back from what they did last week. And here's the thing, is part of that lead that they had, and this is what I want people to remember whenever I'm going to be handicapping this as well, is whenever I'll scroll so you can kind of read a little bit further what we think here over on the lines. They got that lead via, blocked punt, tipped pass, stopped Dalvin Cook on a 4th and 1, all this. And then even with all of that, they were still held to a bunch of field goals as well because they couldn't move the ball. They were gifted these short fields several different times, and they had to settle for field goals because they can't score because they couldn't do anything. And so now you're going to bring in a guy that hadn't played all year long. It's very interesting to me that there's some Colts love in the market for this. It feels like this Chargers offense has been better of late, and I'll continue to scroll so you can kind of read along. It hasn't really actually been all that great, and certainly has struggled to put points on the board like they're fine between the 20s. They've gotten in the red zone and they've kind of sputtered a little bit with all of that. So that's kind of one of those things where, can you get right against a team like the Colts? You would like to think so. This, what's really been good for this Charger team, and the reason that I think that everyone thinks that they've been playing much better is just the defense has been much better. So since week 12, which would be the last month of the season, they're 6th overall DVOA defense, 10th versus the pass, 10th versus the run. They're 5th in passing success rate allowed. They're 10th in rushing success rate allowed. So they figured something out, at least over the last month, on the defensive side of the ball, and the opposite on the Colts defense. Colts defense at least had signs of life in the kind of the beginning of the season. Over their last 4 weeks, so the last month of the season, what we're getting from them is 23rd overall DVOA defense, 26th versus the run DVOA, 26th in EPA per play allowed. So it is a defense that has gone kind of the opposite direction of what you're getting from this Chargers defense as well. And listen, there's another thing here that comes into play, and we kind of saw this come to fruition over the last couple of weeks. And like I mentioned, tons of yardage between the 20s. They're going to have to button it up whenever they get into the red zone and actually score touchdowns to the Chargers if they want to win at margin. But the other thing is you got to remember, it's only been 2 weeks now where Justin Herbert has had all of his weapons out there. Not since week 1, had he had Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen all in the field together until 2 weeks ago. So now this offense started to resemble a little bit more what we thought coming into the season. Hell, I had them going to the Super Bowl, right? I mean, before the season started, and then just this ridiculous amount of injuries that they had and all that kind of derailed that thought. But could they come back around at this point? I mean, listen, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But if we just look at the season-long numbers on all of this and on both of these teams, it's pretty stark, right? I mean, when you look at the Indianapolis offense, I mean, this is season long. I told you the kind of the short-term stuff, but season long, I mean, dead last offensive DVOA. Pro Football Focus has them 29th, so, down towards the bottom. They allow a ton of pressure on the quarterback, 27th in pressure rate allowed, right? Their offensive EPA is 31st. Their success rate is 27th offensive. The yards per play is 29th. So now you come in and you get a Charger defense that is going to blitz a lot. Now, they don't get a ton of pressure as it is right now. Of course, Bosa being out. But you mix all these blitzes in with a team that gives up a ton of pressure, and you would think that you would be able to create a little bit more pressure than you have on a season-long basis, given the fact that you have such a poor offensive line there for Indianapolis. So I think that Nick Foles could be under pressure a lot in this one as well. I just do not like their chances a ton in this game. Okay, so all that being said, Matt, where are you landing on this? What the hell's going on? What are you doing? If you want to play the Colts, man, y'all can go ahead. If you want to sit through the worst offense in the NFL without Jonathan Taylor now, they're the worst offense anyway. Now they don't have Jonathan Taylor and all that, then so be it. I took the Chargers at 3. It did move off that number. It moved off the key number. As we're sitting 3.5, this feels like one of those games in which the Colts either win outright because the Chargers have a massive amount of turnovers, where I'd almost just play the Colts on the money line if you want to go the Colts direction, or the Chargers just win at margin. They come out, it's a completely lifeless Colts team. It's a Colts team that, nothing to play for, lame duck coach, the whole 9 yards, all that stuff. And they just lay a complete egg in this game. And I lean more towards that than I do the former. So Chargers or pass for me on this thing. I can't imagine sitting through having to sweat a close game with this Colts team. From a total standpoint, it seems about appropriate. Chargers play into the mid to high 20s. Could the Colts put some points on the board? I think so as well. So I think that this is I think that the total is pretty appropriate. What we do have over here from a prop bet standpoint, though, I do like this one a pretty good bit, is Austin Eckler, and not the rushing yards actually, but from a receiving yard standpoint. There's a 32.5 right here that we can take the over at only minus 112 right here. So if we take a look at Eckler, for one thing, the Colts defense hasn't been great anyway recently, but over the whole season, for whatever reason, they've just, and I guess maybe it's lack of speed at the linebacker position or something like that, but they've not been able to cover backs. They're like 28th in the NFL versus receiving backs for whatever reason. And so with all of that, you get one of the best receiving, if not the best receiving backs in all the NFL coming into this game. So at a 32.5 number, Eckler has cleared this total in 10 of his 14 games. He has 10 games of at least 6 targets on the season as well. If you look at the yardage total for him over the course of the entire season, his mean, which would be the average that we come to, is 45.3 yards per game. The median, which I tend to look at a lot more when it comes to player props, is actually 47.5. So the mean and the median both clear this number by a pretty good margin. He's done it in 10 of 14 games. And more importantly to me, I just want the opportunity. At least in 10 games, he's gotten at least 6 targets. At least 6 targets in 10 games so far this year. Couple that again, like I said, with the fact that the Colts don't, for whatever reason, don't defend opposing receiving backs very well. I do like the over 32.5 receiving yards for Eckler quite a bit. Pretty simple same game parlay, kind of doing the stuff that I just talked about here. So Chargers win by a field goal. Herbert's going to get, by the way, his passing prop is at like 283.5 right now. So just to let you know, to kind of further the Eckler receiving, Herbert's passing prop's just like a little bit under 300 yards right now. So sitting at 3, Chargers win by 3. Herbert gets at least 280. And if he gets at least 280, then 30 of that at least goes to Austin Eckler, and we're getting 3.5 to 1. If you want to get a little bit more aggressive on Herbert and think that he might go nuclear in this game, of course, we could pull off of the 279 and say that he throws for at least 305. And if that's the case, it bumps this thing all the way up to 475. So you can see, you can kind of mess around a little bit with what you want the payoff to be, but it's still the same premise. A Chargers win. Herbert has a pretty good day throwing the ball, and at least 30 of those yards go to Austin Eckler. Same deal, though, if we wanted to say, hey, if Herbert went nuts and threw for 305, then maybe Eckler, got 40 receiving yards as opposed to 30. And if he got 40, then you get this thing up to 625. So you can see how it goes, just telling the same story with just a little bit different of an outcome for everything. But I like the Chargers tonight. I think this game could get pretty ugly, actually. I think that the Chargers, so long as they can figure out why they were not scoring in the red zone, go ahead and get in there as opposed to settling for field goals, that they could win this thing pretty handily. Nick Foles not playing all year long. Guys, you can get in the Discord right up here and you can chat with everybody else, see what they think about this game. And again, as always, everything's free. We really do appreciate the support. This channel's grown so much over the last year, and it's because of you guys. If you could please hit that subscribe button, mean the world to us. Give us a thumbs up as well. Let the YouTube algorithm know that we're doing something good here. And then let us know in the comment section. How do you like this game? What are you going to play? Like I said, I think the total's right, but what do you think about the total, and any of those other props out there stand out to you? Good luck on all your bets here on Monday Night Football.